Okay, this is the Dow Jones, and I've just got the couple of forks we had on last week on there, and as we can see, we've come back and tagged a couple of those, or touched a couple of those median lines. That's how the pitchforks work. There's an 80% probability of price returning to the median. So we'll just zoom up a little bit closer. There's our August crash there, really high volume down. We had a couple of weeks of really high volume down. But on the second week, we closed just a bit lower than the week before. Put in a long tail, but we closed on the high, on really high volume. The high volume tells us professional money is very active, because most of this volume here is the activity of the professional money in the market. So smart money are very active, closed on the high, so there must have been buying in that bar for it to close on the high like that. But there's also a lot of supply in that bar, and it needs to be tested. And next bar closes lower, again on high volume, so there's too much supply in that bar to hold, and then we spring up. So again, that supply being absorbed by buyers tends to go up on a bit of no demand, but close on the low, so not ready to go yet. And they push further into the bar, and the volume decreases, and up she goes on increased volume. So again buying, and they slam it down until this point here and get a few weeks of really high volume, but the end result of that is we start moving up. So that sort of indicates there's a lot of accumulation happening in this range here, and especially on the last bar that closed high, and it's just shot up on this volume. We had price go up on decreasing volume this time, but closed on the high, and it's continued up. So that would indicate that a lot of the sellers have been taken out of the market, and the professional money are in control of a lot of the trading stock, and that's allowed it to move as it has and come back to the median line of our blue pitchfork. So if we say that's accumulation happening there, then we expect that they're investing in the professional money are investing in higher prices. And we've also started a little bit of an up move going here as well from the last low. Definitely cleared this high here, pivot high here. So and made a higher high. We don't actually have a higher low yet. So if we can retrace and form a higher low, that'll probably be a good place for our to start really looking at going long, but no on your longer term time frame. So we have tagged a couple of pivot points, because that's what those medians do, act as pivot points, especially our blue line. Whenever we've crossed the median, it's always come back and made a couple of swings around the median line. Hit the median, come back, hit the median, come back. Push down it, try this time to tag the median. When it fails to tag a median like that, it normally takes out the previous pivot. So that was an attempt to go back to the median. That gave us our lower pivot low. That's Hagopian's rule. Hagopian's rule says if price pivots before it should, like before a pivot point, then normally you get a reaction back past the previous swing, and that did happen there, but it sprung back up. We've hit our median line, so I would expect, going by what's happened in the past, that what generally happens is that we might do a couple of swings around that median line before it decides where it wants to go next. I suspect it wants to go higher, because there's a big investment happened down here, and they'll want to take profits from that at some stage at higher prices, wherever that might be. And it could be not too much higher, we'll just have to see. But I think what's happened down here is also they've taken out a lot of the buying public, and to distribute properly, they'll need a bit of an up move to attract the public back in, so they can sell into that up move. Otherwise, So this can go higher yet, I think, but I think we're going to come back and swing it back around this median wherever we go next. And if we get some testing back into our high volume areas here, just above our little trading range there, that would be good. A couple of little interesting things. We've also, where it stopped there, it's right on, stopped right at that, at the high of this high volume bar right at the beginning of the crash. So that's interesting, isn't it? So it might pivot there and come back and test, and that won't be a bad thing. If we get some light volume, nice bullish bar at a higher low, then I think that would just add strength to the chart. So I'll leave that on there. I'll take these circles off and probably play with a couple of other things. Probably play with a couple of fibs as well, just a couple of things I noticed the other day. If I take fib extension and pick this pivot low here and to the first swing, extend up, you can see how so we have an action, we have a center line, we have a reaction at the 100%. That's acted as a price has responded around that level. And 161%, we had our highs there, so that's interesting, isn't it? The 200% is up around the 13,710, but I would be looking at more short term. The other thing I could have done was put another little pitchfork there. See, so we've got a little uptrend going, haven't we? I mean, from this low here, what's at the GFC lows, we've been trending out, and we're still really longer term, depending on your time frame, we're still really, you know, we still have a valid uptrending long-term pitchfork, two of them. We've got I think we've got that line. We can probably put a line there. There's a possible pivot point. Let's see if I can get a downtrending pitch. I can get a downtrending pitchfork. I know probably from those swings. So we've got one there. So it's challenging that high at the moment. But I think, you know, we've got to we've broken out of this away from our highest volume bar at the bottom here, and if we come back and retest that on that area, that would be real good if the market gives it to us. But anyway, I'll go put my retracement there. If I go from this high here to this swing high here, we've got our 161 at 12,528 roughly. So if it wants to kick on, that would be our first port of call. Look, that corresponds with this pivot low over here, and that's a major pivot low there. So I might get rid of that and just tag that. We've got we do the reverse fib from that high to our low. From that high to our low. We've actually tagged the 76.4 fib there as well. So it's at a logical pivot point, so I would expect it to come back and test. But if not, you've got your 161.8 just above. You've got your previous highs just above. I'll just get rid of some of these lines because it's getting messy now. Then you've got your 261 reverse fib. What else can we have a look at? We can probably have a look at, if it were to pivot there, I would put this is assuming it's going to pivot there. I'd put a fib extension there. if you call that the action at the bottom and the center at the top, and you project that up to the 100%, would take you up to 14160, which is the pre-GFC highs. So that's and that's something to look at, isn't it? That takes you exactly up to the pre-GFC highs. So that's interesting, isn't it? So well, we'll see if we get there. And I'll get rid of all these. I might also get rid of some of these lines, and some of these lines I'm just taking from pivot highs there. We're broken out there. I've got the pivot low there. We've got this pivot high over here, which is a 13120. We're broken below our pivot low here on the weekly chart, but we're at a natural pivot point where we are now. So if we come back and retrace, then we could probably do a retracement there if it wants to retrace. We've got the 23.6 fib, which is this pivot low here. If it wanted to come back and test there, would be good. And then we have the 38.2% fib, which takes us back into a high volume trading range. That's actually this pivot low down here. So, and you got your 50%. But you know, if it came back and did some low volume testing in there, then you'd be looking to seriously go. You know, then we could go another leg up again. So get rid of those. If it did want to kick on, it normally what happens is that it'll come back and test this median line anyway. So you've broken through this median line. I would expect it to come back and swing back around this median line, even if it did kick on a bit. That's where it would come back to test. But I think maybe we are due. We've had a bit of a good run. You'd probably say we've done that looks like a range there. There's a repeating range. We've sort of gone a bit above a repeating range there, haven't we? There we go. So we've overextended a bit, but that's because of this accumulation that's happened down here, you know, and especially that last shakeout that frightened the crap out of everyone. It just sucked all the sellers out of the market and whack, up she goes. So professionals are in control of the trading stock at the moment, and I think it'll need to go up a bit more for them to be able to for them to get paid off for that buying in there. There's a lot of buying in there, so I think it may have to go up a bit more for the payoff and to be able to generate the sort of buying pressure needed to distribute into. But okay, we might have a look at the get rid of some of these because they come through on my daily chart. I don't really want them on my daily chart right yet. The daily chart's real messy. Oh, here we go. Here's the downtrending pitchfork I've got. It's a bit messy, but I've got a couple of these uptrending ones as well. I've got too many lines on here is what I've got. I'm going to get rid of some. I'm just going to get rid of, I'll leave that one. What I've done the pitchfork, and then I've just put some sliding parallels in to catch the slop and see how we go. So here's our daily. There was a high volume down. There's a real high volume down and up. It really highlighted it. That started this accumulation range. And then we've broken out of this range at the moment. And let's get rid of some of these lines. Except I like them all, so I don't really want to. I'll get rid of this one. I'll get rid of this one. So we've got a red uptrending pitchfork, which it's following. We've got this blue really steep one, so that's probably a bit too steep, but it's still, I mean, it's still valid. It's still tracking that uptrending median line, but how long that can continue, we'll just have to see, but it's a little bit steep to hold that median for too long, I would imagine. But anyway, it's had a good move, and that's the strength of this last shakeout. You see the volume now is lower, it's high volume down, and it's just sprung. And it's been able to spring up on a decreasing volume because it's just sucked all the sellers out. So, and then it's stopped at the top of our trading range here, which is I've marked off this high volume bar here as our trading range for the most part, and it's pushed through there now. We can see it's come up to, I've marked some high volume bars over here, which correspond with this pivot low here. Pushed up on high volume, pushed through high volume here, got some no demand, but ran an up move, so they just knocked it back a bit. They retested this pivot high here, low supply. It's a bit hard when they close on the bum like that to do it, but the next bar reversing up on increased volume tells us that's a successful test. And then that pushed through, that was a major resistance area there, that last pivot low. That pushed through there on increased volume, and it's high volume but not excessive, and it's what you want to push through a resistance line, and we expect that to be tested. Now, this has gone up on decreased volume and narrow spread. There's technically no demand, but it's not really a proper no demand because half the body of the bar is below the close, so that's an element of testing there as well. So maybe they know this pitchfork line is here and they're testing on top of that, I don't know. It could just mean they're stopped and they want to come back and bring it back to test this median line or the high volume area. I would expect this high volume area here would be tested at some stage, but otherwise we've got the top of our pitchfork just above us there, so they might up thrust before they do that and bring it back down, catch out the any short stops or trap in any new longs and then go back down to test. Got another conjunction here. I've actually added a 50% line on this blue pitchfork, which it seems to be roughly following as well, bottom and top. So that's interesting. It's also interesting where we've stopped is this pivot low here. So we just stopped just short of there, and so yeah, it's due to it's had a good run. It's due to come back and test. I think I'd like to see that volume tested, but that actually does look like a bit of a test. And if that's a test, that can fly. And we're in striking range now of these two highs here. So now May high. So that looks alright. I think that looks okay, but if it wants to come back, just put that fib retracement in again. If it were to retrace from there, then your 38% fib will take you back into the support zone and retest. Your 23 fib will come back and test your pivot low here. So any test or any light volume testing we see in those areas now, we pay special attention to, because we've got this little uptrend happening here. We're paying attention now to our strong bars, not so much to our weak bars, because that just means it might come back. See, we've got a weak bar there, no demand, but they just knocked it back a bar because they wanted to test that breakout, obviously, before they took it up. So even if that is a no demand bar, I think you couldn't short it. It just means it might come back and retest in this area. And I think the chart's looking actually a lot better than it has for a while now, because I think so. But they may up thrust first before they come back and test, and we've got this sliding parallel that caught these tops here of the pitchfork here. We've got that right above us there. We've got the upper tine of the pitchfork. We've got the 50% of our really steep pitchfork. So that would be a logical pivot point just above before they take it back down. But yeah, so that's looking okay. So that's the there for us, and yeah, I'll just go back to the weekly. And yeah, so I thought I was quite chuffed that it's tagged those couple of pitchforks there. At first I thought it's oh look, it's tagged where it's crossed, but it's just because of the way I've got it. But it's actually tagged them both, so that's good.